This is a favorite among narcissists, but anyone can do it. It's not just reserved for narcissists or cluster B types. The label doesn't matter, but really any mean or immature person can do this to someone. Stonewalling is basically the silent treatment after an argument, and it might not even be after the argument. If they're just sick of listening to you and sick of talking to you, they will just put that wall up in the middle of you talking, completely tune you out. The other kind, which is what emotionally abusive parents do, is where they loudly say something to end the conversation. They might say, "That's enough. Stop it. Quiet. We're done here." And then after that, they ignore you. It's like basically saying, "Okay, bye." It's rude, it's very frustrating, and it's really how they tell you that your feelings and your side of the argument don't matter. It's how they set the terms of the conversation. It's how they silence you. It's how they knock you down. It's how they establish control over the situation. It's showing you that you don't have a right to feel the way you feel. It's telling you that you don't have the right to express yourself. It is the end of the conversation on their terms. I'm not a professional at this. I can only speak about my own experience and from what I've observed. But it is my personal belief that the ones who flat out ignore you, generally the partner, are actually scared to argue with you. Deep down, they're little kids. They're afraid of everything. And the ones who get loud and tell you to be quiet, they want you to be scared of them. The way Robert would stonewall me is he would just ignore me. He never raised his voice to me. And I do feel it's because he was a little scared of me. If we were having an argument over the phone, he would never hang up on me. He would just hold the phone and not say anything. If we were having a text argument, he would just stop texting me. He would sort of go back and forth between reading my text and not responding, and just turning his phone off and making himself completely unreachable. Occasionally, he would throw in a zinger, like, "You're so annoying, no wonder why you don't get along with anyone, no wonder why you have no friends. You're so hard to get along with." I have tons of friends, and we don't have fights about stuff like this. But when he would say this type of stuff, even though deep down I knew it wasn't true, because he was so in my head, I sometimes had a hard time deciding which reality was real. So when they're stonewalling you, and they say something along the lines of, "No wonder why you're so hard to get along with," you start to introspect, gaslighting and introspecting. You start to think back about your behavior, about how you act. And you start to wonder if maybe you really are the problem. My mother, who wanted me to fear her, she was a huge fan of stonewalling me. She would yell, "That's enough." And after she established that the conversation was over, she would then ignore me. They will completely tune you out. If you're in the same room, they won't look at you. They won't acknowledge that you're speaking. If you aren't there, they will ignore your calls, ignore your texts. It's as if you don't exist. It's extremely frustrating and very hurtful. You know, when you have something you want to say and you're being blatantly ignored, it really shows you that the narcissist doesn't respect your feelings. A healthy, balanced, mature adult would never ever behave like this. They would either speak to you until the problem is resolved, or they would say, "Hey, let's just talk about this another time." To me, being stonewalled feels worse than anything. It feels worse than fighting, worse than being insulted. You feel completely invisible. It feels like you're not even worthy of having the argument. So right away we feel that we've upset this person, and we feel like we have to apologize, and we have to resolve the argument. So not only are they ignoring us when we try to discuss our feelings, but now they're ignoring us when we're trying to resolve the conflict. Robert has stonewalled me countless times, which really showed me that my feelings meant nothing. But I've also observed him stonewall other people. He blames everything on everyone else, so it's really no wonder that he would always get into arguments with people. So the most important thing to remember is that adults don't do this. This is something that children do. Growing up, when your parents needed to talk to you about something important, you would hide in the closet or run away. It was acceptable back then. But when it transfers to grown-up relationships, it's just very odd behavior. Narcissists behave like children because mentally and emotionally, that's the level that they're on. They can't handle an adult conversation about your feelings. So keep in mind, anyone can stonewall. Anyone who's immature, mean, and just generally doesn't care to continue a conversation. It can be considered an abusive tactic. Stonewalling does a number of things. Over time, it will condition you to essentially walk on eggshells and never bring anything up. I became very anxious anytime I wanted to discuss anything serious with Robert. After a while, I was conditioned to just not communicate or discuss my feelings, because I knew the conversation wouldn't go anywhere, and I knew that I would end up getting more upset. And it's a way the narcissist can escape accountability. The narcissist does not want to think about your feelings. Your feelings and your emotions are looked at as a big inconvenience. And if they're hurting your feelings, they just don't care.